Hello, and welcome to High Key Growth, the podcast for early stage founders, solopreneurs, and marketers to achieve rapid growth while running lean. I'm your host, Gina Gregorick, and today I am so excited to welcome the brilliant Heather Williamson to the podcast. Heather, welcome.
Hi, guys. My name's Heather. Nice to meet you.
I'm so excited to have you, Heather. So, I actually met Heather really recently. For those of you who know, I am in the short term rental world now, and I was so excited to get to know you a little bit more, Heather. She's the founder of HW Marketing and Consulting, where she helps brands tell their story through creative and strategic content. She has a background in business and marketing and an MBA from Fairmont State University. Sounds a little familiar. And she relocated to Virginia's Eastern Shore. If you check out some of her content, you'll get to see that firsthand, where she really started in retail, tourism, and hospitality. But ultimately, that led you to starting your own business, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. So,
Yeah.
without further ado, Heather, can you give the listeners just a quick overview on your background and what you focus on as a digital marketing consultant?
Absolutely. So let me kind of go back a little farther than probably necessary, but I started with my undergrad in business administration, accounting. And then 2 days later, after I learned about charting my accounts, I switched to marketing. So then I went and I finished that off for the first 4 years and then continued with my MBA. And I started getting my feet wet with was an assistantship position and did like the social media there at the university for a brief second. This was also during the pandemic, so it was just everything was kind of like tilted off its axis, and we just weren't sure where the social world was going. And so that's where I kind of started. Went to the Eastern Shore, followed my husband, and I ended up in retail for a second and ultimately found hospitality, which is where I have one of my clients currently. I ended up going with her again. She brought me on as an independent consultant, which has been wonderful, but it just shows kind of like the full 360 to coming back. But the overview of that is I started in marketing and events there, and that's where I really got into social media marketing and just telling the story of a POV perspective of being able to be a guest without being there. And it really showcased exactly what you would experience when you came to the resort, which is it was the Chickadee Island Comfort Suites. And then they also have a Key West property. It's a dual property. So they're separate now, but at the time they were together. So I took on two different accounts. And that's when we started getting the rolling on content and learning how to go and target different audiences during the midst of this. Then I went to what I ultimately thought was going to be like my capstone in my career, and I was so wrong. It led me to like all of this fruition of starting my business, and I kind of dabbled with that a little bit during my time as a marketing and events coordinator. But then I got this director position. Whoa. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I did it. It was great. But it ultimately showed me that there was this huge niche that was not being fulfilled where I was. And that was social media marketing and consulting. So I took the jump, which was very scary because, you're on this platform of like, you're in a director position, you're making money and benefits, et cetera, et cetera. And to kind of like cut that cold turkey, I had about 4 months in and I completely booked down my services and clients galore. It was something where it was like truly um, oh, there's God moment
Mm.
because I was able to go and say this was the right move. So after I started that for a little bit, HW Marketing Consulting was in full swing. And here about 2 years later, we are booked constantly. And I just say that with such like pride.
Mhm.
It was not just a single-handed me, myself, and I. It was, like my husband was very behind this process of, you got it. Don't apply for another job. You got it. You got it. And that was great. But there was also some handlements with my clients now and mentors through the process. This one, for instance, like the Comfort Suites, so I was telling you about with my earlier position, she's one of my clients now. Whenever I reached out and I was like, yeah, I'm going on my own. She said, well, it sounds like we need to hire you. So they hired me on, and that was great. So I'm back with working with just those two properties on that side. And it's fun because now I've got this like rotation of STR, we've got management, retail, restaurants, like the list goes on and on, with also independent properties and campaigns. So it's fun to kind of say I'm all over in the area, but
Hmm.
there was a mentor that told me you've got to find something that's moving your needle. Because when I first initially started this process, it was this is all the stuff that I can do because my background was so versed.
Hmm.
Marketing, events, weddings, like there was just this lump of knowledge that was in here. But where was that niche? Where was I able to really say, I'm really good at this. I can really help you do this. So back to again, I knew that there was that Achilles heel in the area, but how was I going to go and help those businesses? So I talked, his name's Eric Hawkins. He is the owner of Cape Charles Tiny Living in Cape Charles, Virginia. So he was like, you need to find this needle and move it. And so I sat there and really tried to figure it out. And it was social media marketing, but particularly luxury aesthetics.
Hmm.
So kind of finding the voice in that. There was a lot of noise, and that we'll talk about a little bit later because it's in some questions, but there's a lot of noise on social media. And learning how to stand out upon that really set me apart from everybody else here on the shore because when you see one of my videos, you know it's me. And
Hmm.
it's something that it was like, okay, I found it. Now let's progress. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a little bit of who I am, what I do, and what the business kind of does.
No, that was super helpful. I think for a lot of the marketers out there listening, it can really resonate because I really liked how you hit on you can do it all, you've done it all. And that's a funny thing in marketing because we are required oftentimes to do it all. And so it's really easy to say we can do everything for you. But when you do go out on your own and when you decide to start your own business, which I think we're both pumping you up for here if you're listening to this podcast, the real answer is finding when do you put your foot down and when do you say yes and when do you say this is what I do. I can do creative. I can design you a logo if I have to, but that's not something I do anymore in my career. And so it's important to set those boundaries. But when we talk about you setting those boundaries, you mentioned you found your niche in this like aesthetic lifestyle video content. Again, I can't drop your socials enough. There will be a link in the description below. Please check out her socials. They are absolutely stunning. How did you find your niche in this and doing content for short-term rentals, hotels, travel brand? Like what made you say social is that niche?
So I decided to, whenever I decided to quit my job, I let my boss know it was like well in advance, and he kind of knew that it was coming.
Hmm.
So I was and luckily, I've always left on good terms. And so anybody out there listening to this, always leave on good terms because because it comes back around. It's like I told you about the one where I'm working together with them again. And but that niche was because I loved the idea of making a movie, but with my phone.
Hmm.
And like socials are fun, but it's also in a way that it's like that creative freedom. And I like to always say that, like, yes, I'm in business, I'm a business owner, and I like to think strategically, but at the end of the day, I feel like I'm an artist.
Hmm.
And this is my way of going and captivating what I see so other people can experience it with me.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where I started. That's how I got to the point where it's luxury, because I actually really just think it through in the moment. I
Yeah.
have group of friends that I'm like constantly on there and saying, "What on earth is Meta doing today?" Blah blah blah. And they were always asking, "Well, how do you content plan?" And it's truly just I look at what's going on in the moment when I go to film. Let's say it's a film shoot and we kind of have like a loose subject, but during the process, it kind of manifests and turns into what I see in the moment. I like to have some hard hit lists to help with futuristic planning and scheduling, but it's really that the eye to what's going on in the moment. I hope that answered that.
No, it totally did. And that's where it kind of leads to my next question is like we're talking about the importance of this is social media we're talking where this content is shared. And as someone who has a short-term rental now, I have the apps, we're on the Airbnb, we're on the Verbo, But why do you think social media has become so important in the short-term rental and like boutique hotel landscape? Like, how is social helping these businesses stand apart, and how is it maybe driving business?
Because everybody has their phone. It's free. For instance, let's look at the financial aspect of it. Um, Teenagers have it. There's the end of life habit. It's something where it's in your phone, it's accessible. And for the most part, yes, you have to have your plan. Yes, you have to have all this. But for the most part, somebody's got a phone. And those applications that they download, they're free, unless you're going to go and you're boosting a post and anything like that. So it's already in the hands of billions of people. And all they're doing is they're just scrolling because it's so addictive. And I talk about that in many different scenarios of consulting where it's like you have to also ensure that whenever you're when you're creating content, because yes, it's addicting, but you want to stand out enough where they stop scrolling because that whole motion with your thumb is like the leading tale of how people are going to say, "Oh, hold on, let me tap instead of scroll." So that's why I think I mean, I don't even think that. I know that that's why.
Yeah. And what are some, would you say, universal best practices that get people to stop and tap instead of scrolling?
It needs to be something where it's visually like, whoa, hold on, what is this? It asks a question. I was just consulting somebody yesterday where it was she's getting ready to write a book. And I said for some of the campaigns that she wants to do, you have to get to a point where maybe it's like a heading or perhaps it's like a text overlay where it makes you say, huh? And you pause for a second, even if it's a little bit questionable, and it gets you to a point where you can go and, oh, I lost my light, but that's okay.
That's all
It
right.
gets you to a point where like you're able to go and have a moment where they're second guessing what the video means. And so I like to go and have text overlays that are a little bit more questionable, such as like today I posted one that said, why would I ever visit the Eastern Shore of Virginia? And then it goes to the next overlay and it says, why not? With showcasing beautiful imagery and etc. So that's just something to keep in mind. But that's how I would kind of approach it is like something a little bit shocking, maybe a little bit of not necessarily misleading, but
Hmm.
it makes them question it rather than Virginia's Eastern Shore. And I'm saying this because that's where I'm located, guys. So whenever you're listening to this, like that's where I'm from. That's where my niche is Virginia's Eastern Shore. So that's going to be a lot of examples today. But it kind of gets you thinking. It's thought provoking because essentially you have three steps, and that's you're interested, and then that evaluation is questioning it, then to go further and either look at the caption, which means you have to tap it because Instagram and Facebook only show a portion of it. And it leads them to either looking for your profile, reading a little bit more, or looking at the tags, collaborators, etc. So that's kind of like the viewpoint of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And for those listening, I don't know if you caught this early on, but something that Heather does that is extremely unique, and you wouldn't believe it if you look at her work, is that everything she records is actually on her phone. So that is extremely applicable to a lot of listeners here today because they are early stage founders. They might not have, budget or equipment for this high quality footage, but you're kind of proving that wrong. You don't need this, high quality, tools. And so really quick, before we dive into talking about the tools, I guess I want to stick on creating the video content. How are you making your videos appear authentic while still being highly polished? Because we keep talking about that really polished look, but I think that your videos also have this edge of authenticity. So how are you capturing that?
That one, so I feel like that one's harder to explain for me. When I go in and I'm shooting something, I use my phone, one, because when I first started the business, the mode of entry was I need to use what I have. Have to use what I have because if anybody out there is in business for themselves, they know that like your come home pocket is zero for a minute. And in order for you to be able to go and maximize the potential, it needs to be creative in the tools that you have. And I feel as though, especially with STR, it's not a manner of like, for instance, I believe in outsourcing. I mean, that's literally what I do. That's my business. You outsource because I don't want you to bring on somebody internally because that's let's say, $40,000, $50,000 of somebody that you can dedicate to outsourcing. Don't have to worry about benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So yes,
Mhm.
outsource everybody. But for those that are going and doing something that's in the budget for their, the foreseeable future until they've built a budget so they can bring on somebody to do consulting and to do videography content creation. It's important to go and use that phone, go and pull it out. If you're at the beach, or let's say, you're in the mountains, find something that's aesthetic to you. It could even be the coffee, and just envision how it would feel to experience your rental for the first time, and like those awe moments that feel very authentic to you and why you enjoy being there. Because, for instance, you have a property that you love. What are those pieces that you really like? And maybe even like write it down. For instance, let's not be a marketer for like 5 seconds and say, okay, what's my 5 list that I like about my property? What do I enjoy? Do I like my kitchen? Do I like my view? Maybe I don't have a view, but I really love the way that I've furnished everything.
Mhm.
How can I go and I express that through the eyes of the individuals that are watching the videos? Just set up a tripod and record. It's just a matter of, and that's the thing too. I get a lot of questions about gimbals and equipment and all that stuff, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I really think just getting a tripod with your phone, if you don't have an easy flow
Mhm.
of your jaunty and jiggly when you're viewing back the video, get the tripod, don't move it, and just literally sit it there. And I test everybody by saying, because everyone's like, oh, I can't make a video. You can, because there's this beautiful thing with the tripod. It doesn't move and it's fine. It's capturing your image, but it's not a photo. So it still shows a little bit of life. And then if you want to go and capture another essence, like the coffee coming up from your mug and your Keurig that's on the counter, you're going to zoom in at 2x, okay? And then you're going to just showcase that with a darker background so you can still see the steam come up. And it's still on the tripod, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to showcase it in a different manner, and it's going to pop from screen to screen. And one of the things that I think is really important is the music, which we can dive down like a whole list of these music and the trending audio and all that stuff. But I think if you were to go and take seconds clips, like for instance, a lot of people, my husband included, God love him, he will have like a whole minute of a clip, and that's not the way that I would recommend filming.
Mhm.
Take 10 seconds, and if it goes past 10 seconds, stop it. Just cut it off, and that's the video that you need to use. And once you go back to editing, it's going to be easier to go and import just these tiny little clips, and you're placing it here and there. And it's like this experiment where you get to feel like, okay, this isn't that overwhelming. This isn't that
Mhm.
taxing. It's not 1 to 2 minutes of editing content where you're like, where on earth is that piece that I need to have? It keeps it manageable for you.
Okay, I wish someone had told this to me maybe like a year ago, because I discovered really recently TikTok prefers videos to be at least 7 seconds. That's what everyone seems to be telling me. And so all of my video clips and files were like 5 seconds, which isn't quite long enough to really test and perform, or
Yeah.
2.5 minutes. And I'm like, and it's good stuff, but I'm like scrubbing through this
Yep.
video and all this
Yep.
B-roll we've recorded. So I'm really happy that you've given others this advice. I wish
Yes.
we had talked sooner.
And it's like it's fun too because whenever you get to go back and oh, and that's another thing too. Keep that content so seasonally. And this is just like something I'm getting acquired to now because I've got people that have been on my roster now for like 2 years where I'm finally pulling stuff from then. Those 10-second clips in your phone, create an album that is dedicated to that property in your
Mhm.
phone. And every, let's say, 2 weeks, you go through there and you add to that list of in your gallery in your phone. I wish I could show it on here, it would be better, but it will then, whenever you go to edit, not be overwhelming to go through your personal photos and your, STR, all this stuff. It kind of organizes it a little bit better, but it also is just less overwhelming.
Yeah,
So,
no, that makes total sense. So when we talk about Instagram versus TikTok, YouTube Shorts, what types of content tend to perform better? I think everyone listening, whether they're in the STR world or not, can agree that it's really hard to create different content for the different channels. And to be
Mhm.
fair, it seems as though different content performs better on each. So maybe you can talk about what performs better where and how we can be more efficient with our time.
Yeah, so there's, let's talk about the big three, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Okay. So YouTube Shorts to me, that world is, it's almost like it wants to be long form,
Hmm.
but it can't be because you have it's that app that platform is really competing with each other because of the short term and the long term. So TikTok, I've noticed it's been really fun I have a client that just came on and they're doing Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So I can kind of speak on behalf of all three. And their TikTok went from like, they did not have a TikTok at all. So I created the TikTok and I started doing like little things here and there that were only maybe 5 or 6 seconds or 7 seconds versus like their curated videos. And then I started uploading stuff much more frequently because I had this huge roster of content from the past year working with them. And I thought, let's just overwhelm the platform and just see what happens. Because essentially, your first video on TikTok is quite important because it sets the standard for the SEO. And
Hmm.
that is where it's getting the information of like who you are and how they're going to go and push it out to the appropriate people in the algorithm. So, and I could pretend to know anything about the algorithm, but at the end of the day, I don't think anybody really knows about the algorithm. But I will say that there is TikTok likes you to overwhelm it. So if you have like, let's say it's just coastal again. Let's say it's the waves and you just slap a trending audio on it, just do something. I really do. I recommend that. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you're overwhelming your platform. Not if it's authentic to your account.
Hmm.
So, for instance, I would also do your curated videos, have those on hand, try to do that once a week. But again, it gets overwhelming. Again, another wonderful reason to outsource because then you have somebody that's dedicated to it. But
Hmm.
for somebody that's looking for something to just, build that platform, just try to at least get 5 or 6 seconds in, even if it's nothing different other than just looking at the view for 6 or 7 seconds. Because I've noticed a huge difference with trending posts of just photographs, still imaging on TikTok. That's actually hitting it off. And the text overlay on those puppies do so well. Um,
Wow.
that's like the TikTok for me is very interesting because I always thought, okay, no, it has to be video. But
Hmm.
I'm noticing if you go and use like the text overlay on those things, it's so interesting. Like there's people that are interested in it. And I even notice it myself whenever I'm a consumer of the platform. Like it takes me a second because I want to read it. Like, what is it saying to me? Rather than showcasing with a video, you
Yeah.
have to stay a little bit longer. And then TikTok sees that that audience, whoever's looking at it, those little eyeballs, are staying on your video longer. And so then it's going to keep pushing out your content more. So Facebook and Instagram, these two are such rivals against one another because it's like I a year ago would have told you that Facebook was not where I would focus a lot of time, and that's definitely wrong. I went viral 3 times this past, actually, it was the beginning, January, February, and March, on one of my clients' accounts. And they had, keep in mind, when they brought me on, it was 8, 10 likes max.
Yeah.
We went above and beyond, ended up having like 500 followers from one of the Facebook reels, which
Wow.
was just like out of the water,
I act surprised. Like I'm not like on Facebook Reels all the time. Maybe it's because I'm a millennial, but like,
Right. Well, and that's a big part too, is because, and not to get sidetracked on that, but it's you're mentioning you're a millennial. When you're booking your properties, you have to look at how much you're charging per night and what type of consumers can afford your property.
hmm.
So that's going to really be a huge basis on where you're posting. Do you want to post on, like, let's say I don't have enough time to do all these platforms. First of all, let me tell you what, you do have time, just cross post them on certain platforms and it'll be okay. that's just going to take some time. We can talk about that later. But anyway, I really encourage you to look at how much you're charging and what type of people you want staying with you. So, for
Mhm.
instance, families maybe above the age of 40. The Facebook market is much more saturated with that. And therefore, maybe that's where you need to start focusing for right now. But I think that there is this conglomerate of you have to utilize all these platforms in order to be able to find new target audience. Because there's, for instance, this one account that I have, and their clientele is like 60s to 90s. And therefore, we need to think outside of the box. Like there is this time that we are coming to approach where there is a new target market that's going to have to come up here because everybody ages out. And so
Mhm.
therefore, we have to think of who are the next people that are in line that's going to be interested in us. So that's just kind of talking about that. But so Instagram, I feel like and Facebook cohesively, I don't think that you need to make different content for either of
So
them.
you're okay with just what you
Cross
post on one,
posting,
let it go. Let it go to both.
cross cross
Okay.
post them, keep it easy because um like one of my motto, like the true motto of my business is simple yet significant. And it's because when you start to get really in the weeds on it, it treats it makes things so much more complicated and you start to lose this vision of what you were doing in the first place.
Hmm.
It's like the side tangents and the water cooler conversations when you're at work. I think that if you just link your Facebook and your Instagram together, start there and cross post with the same content because the platforms reward you for using them. And it's part of that addictive quality where it's like they want to see that you're on there. And
Hmm.
if you are on there more, they are going to push your content out to people. So that's kind of where I'm at on all three.
All right, real quick, business account versus creator account. What should you have?
Creator. And like I say that in the kindest way because if you're okay, so it's different for alls, but I'm speaking on behalf of your podcast of those that are, perhaps a 1 unit, perhaps 2 unit property or something along that line. Just stick with creator for right now. Test the water, see how it goes. You can get to a point where, for instance, my mentor, he like went from barely any followers to now the man's viral. Okay. And almost every video, he's incredible. And we can talk about some of the things that I see with his that I'm like, okay, like much more STR and more people need to be doing what he's doing, which is showing his face.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I really think that you should stay because the trending audio when you're first starting out is so important. Um, Obviously, and I have to like say this is because unless you're making money, if you're doing ads like that and all that stuff, then you have to do business because then you're creating generated content, amounts of money, blah, 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 all that stuff. So please, whenever I say that, consider the legalities of it. Are you making money on the platform? Are you doing this? And that's when it's like you have to reconsider if you go business or creator. So
Hmm.
start with creator, work with the trending audio, build the platform, your followers, listeners, etc. And then look at your business overall and say, okay, what makes sense moving forward? Should I get monetized? Should I not?
Hmm.
That's where I'm at on that.
And that goes for TikTok as well. The only reason I bring this up is because I did just start to see a few posts come through where it was almost like a tagging of a location. It looked like a Google My Business profile, but for a unit or for a like hotel or something, which I assume is only tied to business profiles. Are you still sticking with creator in the early days to get the viral audio? Is that your big
Yes.
recommendation?
Because, for instance, you haven't built an audience. So
Hmm.
you have no audience you're talking to, and then therefore you've got this not approachable audio that is loses the authenticity of who you are because you have less to pick from and you have not grown your audience. Let's say you have 100 followers. Yes, they can say where it's at, but you can say that in the caption.
Hmm.
Generating, and I feel like that's the cool part about what we do is that, we're creating a destination with your pizzazz at the end of the day. Like one of the best things of what I do is like I'm connecting in the comments. I'm connecting with the businesses, let's say on a different level than just personal. Like my clients, I feel as though they're a direct reflection of what my business and who I am. But outside of
Mhm.
that, once I take on the persona of one of these clients and I'm interacting as their social media manager, their director of marketing, whatever I am on that client, it's this trust that you're building with these viewers every single day, from the DMs to showing them and giving them the point of view, because essentially it's like a product that you're
Mhm.
seeing. Because if you're buying a product and you get it, and let's say it's supposed to be 10 foot and you receive it and it's 8 foot, you're going to be ticked off because that's not what you purchased. And
Mhm.
it's the same for the properties. It's the same for that, DM whenever you're responding and saying, friendly, hospitable, et cetera, et cetera. Because once you build that connection, it's essentially what you would love to have happen is a family comes and wants to come back. The comeback portion is what you really want, because that creates longevity,
Mhm.
income longevity, and then it's word of mouth because, oh, I loved my time. My friends are now coming from that. There's just this built trust, and the connection on that is just that's going to do more for you. And it's going back to that business and the monetization in the early stages than
Mhm.
anything.
And so, when we're talking about some of these mistakes that Airbnb hosts are making when they're on social, what are you seeing most often then? What is the most common mistake that you're happening upon?
They're not showing their face.
Oh,
They're not showing their face.
it's
And the
me, at me.
show your face because get a mic and show your face. Because for instance, me, when you're out, so let's use one of the so I have a management company that I work with that does properties, rentals, et cetera, et cetera. And I can't show my face for these properties because I don't own them. I'm an
Mhm.
outsourced consultant. This is where you guys can go and take the lead and say, okay, well, Heather can't do it. Another person can't do it, but I can because I'm the owner of this property. You're the direct reflection of that property. You can speak for it, you can build the audience, and it allows people to feel as though they know you without knowing you. And so,
Mhm.
therefore, there's that authenticity that we were talking about earlier. You're showing the POV and you're getting that direct expectation up front.
Mhm.
And when people like you and you're outgoing enough to go and talk to them, might be a little, you might need to get a little bit rehearsed. So I definitely encourage you to practice as much as possible. Grab your phone, grab them out, throw it to the, you know, mirror in the bathroom and just start talking. And I think that that's really where people are making the first mistake, is not showing their face. And it doesn't even have to be something that's the like you're walking around with your hands on your, shoulders and your hands behind your back. Like just do like a selfie. And you're going and I want you to film like this and talk about your property in the background. You need to almost advocate yourself in a manner, because nobody else is going to do it for you. You're the
Mhm.
only person that can do it. And that should feel like oh wow, powerful moment. Because even when I come in as somebody that's outsourced, I can't do that. It's not right, because I don't know if you've heard of I can't remember the guy. Shoot, I should have written it down, but it was this guy and he was reviewing like all these meats and stuff on socials, the reels, and
Yeah.
he was giving reviews and talking about them. And then I don't remember how somebody found out that he wasn't the owner. And people were like, well, what's the point? They had so much direct reflection to this guy reviewing this food, but then ultimately he wasn't the owner. And they're like, oh, but he had built such an audience around it. Imagine if you just left. That
Right,
business
right.
now has like lost their key marketer, and this trust built, because then all of a sudden you have the owner pop on that like had not built any of these relationships with these
Mhm.
viewers. So that's where I think is like the number one.
I don't know. The owner may or may not have had like the McDonald's CEO
Yeah.
personality, so like he might have been avoiding the camera,
He
but
was avoiding it. He was avoiding it. So let's put it that way. You feel awkward on camera. What can you do? Because that's still a pain point that you've got to address. Let's say you're awkward, you don't really want to do it. Have somebody, or your tripod, that's $20 on Amazon or
Mhm.
$20 at Walmart. And you just go, and perhaps you are walking through and you're pretending to be like an influencer.
Yep.
Try it.
Fake it till you make it.
Don't want to have your face in it, turn your back. Do like for all those that are watching, you get to see my hand gestures, which are unfortunate for you. I'm so sorry. But you're putting it up and you have it maybe like on the 2x mode, and it's only like a portion of your hand and your arm, and you're turning on the lamp, the side by side light, or you're like flipping up your Keurig cup, or you're placing the pod in. And you will see me do that a lot. If anybody wants to, um, there's a couple, most of the time, anything that I have on my Instagram is public work. It's something that I can share that's not a campaign. So on there, you'll see a lot of what I'm talking about. And because I don't want to show my face because I'm not the owner of those businesses, but I'm creating the content. But it allows for there to be that personal touch without being too much,
It's a
if
little
that
more
makes
lived in. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that makes
Live.
sense. So when we're talking about kind of this lived in feel, the real like storytelling, the angles, like what types of storytelling are you doing that you feel captures the guest's attention the most?
POV.
So like we're talking like selfie cam, like, hey, just got here, or like flip it around and be like, enter, just got here, here's the unit. Like what does that look like?
Yes, so for instance, for me, but again, this is a little bit different. So let me kind of put the hat on, for both angles. So in my world, mine's luxury, artistic, but let's put it on for you guys. What would be best for you guys? You all, I would recommend both, of course, get your little mic on. But again, if you're a little uncomfortable in front of the camera, have the voice audio over. Like for instance, when you're editing, let's say maybe on the video, you can be talking through the video and you're messing up here and there, but you know kind of the concept and you know that, okay, this is the vibe that I'm getting throughout walking around in the property. This is what I want to feature, all this stuff, but you're practicing saying it while you're on the camera. Then go and edit your video. And maybe it's 60 seconds long. That's fine for walkthroughs,
Hmm.
POV, because I think those are important. That's aside from the aesthetics. This is like something where you're building the personal like communication with your audience and your viewers. But then just mute that video and then do the voiceover. And you already kind of have an idea and a general flow to it. You're giving yourself whenever you were talking through the camera, okay, I need to pause here and I'm getting ready to come over here to my coffee maker because I really, really love this coffee. It's so great here. And also, I get to go over to the view over here because I have my coffee maker over here, something along that line.
Hmm.
But when you're doing that video and you're talking out loud in the moment while you're recording, you're kind of building up an idea and you're going slow enough. So whenever you go back to edit, you do the voiceover, it's not like you're cramming a bunch of information immediately.
Hmm.
It's slowed down, it's paced enough to where you can keep up and it feels natural.
And how, when you have a client, are you balancing posts that are about this property, this is my walk through the property, versus like beach and waves, ocean aesthetics, meet me here for coffee, taglines? Like, how are you balancing about us versus just like content people like to follow?
What does it feel like? That's like, how does it feel when you're looking at your content calendar and you're saying, okay, what does this week look like? How does it feel for you in that moment as a consumer? What would you like to see? Because what you're feeling is what the consumer's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be maybe a hard week of like, I want to see what the heck's in that rental unit. Or, man, it's so beautiful outside. I really want to capitalize on that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then if, for instance, let's say I really don't know where to go, put it all together, mash it together, and really create like that aesthetic. Okay, I feel balanced.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So, how can a property brand stand out without spending a ton of money on production or ads? Like, what would you say is your best, like, let's stand out because there's so much competition advice?
I would go with that one's really hard because you have to spend money to make money. But when you're building your budget, it makes sense for you guys to like take a pause for a second and identify. We were talking about our needle earlier, like my
Mm-hmm.
needle. Find your guys' property's needle and identify, okay, where is the good focus that kind of sets me apart from everybody else in my area? Do some research. This is where like lots of market research is important. And for those that are listening and are like, okay, break that down, Heather. It's more of like go on a rental unit that's close to you that maybe is in competition and see what they're doing and say, okay, I see that, I respect that, but at the same time, this is what I have. This is how I stand out more.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of generate something where it's like, it allows you to feel in control at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say for when you have space? We've talked about this before. You have a space that's, say, really small or kind of run of the mill. I mean, when you look at a condo building, a lot of those are going to have similar views, similar, units in general, similar square footage. What are some tips to stand out against your neighbors, the folks next
All
door?
right. And now we're talking about this is where I love the 2X. You're talking about sales because if you've got something you want it to feel big, I mean, let's look at the reality of it. Let's say you've got a 400 square foot property, maybe it's a condo or perhaps it's a studio, and you need to make it feel luxurious. Because again, that's what's in my head, luxury, luxury, luxury. Um, so that way you can charge more money.
Mm-hmm.
Is it furnished correctly? Because aside from just like the marketing and the visual appeal, you as a property owner need to consider like is it detailed? Is it something where it's a good reflection of where it's at? Is it properly furnished? And what are some details that maybe I'm lacking? And this would be really fun for you guys to be able to go and say, whenever you're looking around, like, okay, what is cohesive together? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you don't have enough. And that's where it can kind of open up your Achilles heel of, oh, I didn't realize that maybe I need to focus on this a little bit more because I believe that every property has to be furnished appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes like I walk into units that are bare minimum, and that's great if there's space. But whenever you do have something that's smaller, finding those details like books, like maybe even if you want to be focused on family content, um, have like a reading corner, something that's
Mm-hmm.
cozy. Most of the time, whenever I see units that are smaller, they like to be clean and not cluttered because elsewise it creates this like overwhelming feeling, especially whenever you first walk in and online. So
Mm-hmm.
there is this balance. I see a lot of jute rugs and stuff that bring that warmth. So you gotta look at like the colors, the detailing. And I hate to say it, but like if you get to a point where you're a little overwhelmed in that world, again, reassessing the budget, maybe perhaps, okay, I want to take on a little bit more of my marketing, but maybe I should hire out a consultant for interior and exterior.
Yeah.
It kind of goes all in a 360 of like you have to look at the whole scope because marketing isn't something where, yes, it's art, but the logistics of it are where are the details,
Right.
how can I make my property better?
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a
But
lot of sense.
and to answer your question though, it's not just everybody else's fault, not the marketer's fault. It's once you have those balanced details, then you can go in there and you can focus on them. Let's say you've got your reading nook and you're going and showcasing that and how you turn the page. Maybe you bring in your kids and you're going and making over
Mm-hmm.
their shoulders, and allowing them to kind of speak for the video
Yeah.
rather than showcasing, I swear this place is amazing. It might be small. Always capitalize on what you have and not what you don't have.
Yep. So, speaking of what you have and don't have, I think we've made it clear that we don't necessarily need lights, camera, action to go. What we've mentioned a couple of things, tripod came up a few times. What is like would you say is like a starter kit for people who want to get started on social, want to start boosting, don't want to dump a ton of money into it? What's like the top things they're going to need?
Your tripod, your phone. whatever you want to use. If you want to use a DSLR camera, have at it, but that's not it for me. And a mic because as the property owner, that's going to be used every single time that you put on the camera.
Cool. Very cool. So I know these change by the week, so we might publish this and it could be different. But are there any trends in social media for travel or STRs that brands should be paying attention to right now and jump on that trend that you're seeing are working really well?
Text overlay, like everything. And like the trend, this comes back to creator versus business, the trending audio right now. Whenever you can go, for instance, if you have the capabilities of editing within the Instagram app or let's say the Facebook app, it does reward you better. And it's fun because, you're able to go and see a lot of more rapport rather than just scheduling stuff out. I always recommend now. I used to not do this, but I used to schedule everything out. But now I'm trying really hard to manually post because
Hmm.
it is rewarded more favorably. But the text overlay is, for instance, I think you saw maybe last year the this and that, this
Yep.
and a glass of Chardonnay over the balcony, this and the UV index being 10, something along that line, because it then brings that what we were talking about authenticity, yet
Hmm.
it's visually appealing because it connects with the audience. It makes them stop for a second, they read it, and then especially if they find it interesting, they're either going to repost it, share it, like it, or they're going to watch the caption a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of where I'm at. Text overlay is number one. And it's not like, for instance, I really don't like using memes a lot. I've been seeing a lot of memes recently. You get into a lot of legal battles on that. So just as everybody's listening on this, please take note of like the memes and everything. I see that like going off without a hint and like the original audio stuff because
Hmm.
that stuff for legality wise, I mean, you can get in a battle quick.
Hmm.
And I just want to ensure everybody also understands that yes, this is social media, but it's like one of the biggest parts of my job is to help with legal when it comes to ensuring that anything that's posted on the account is not going to get the account restricted because love Meta, but they can take your account down at any point, and you don't want to give them the justification to do that. So just be careful with what you're posting when it comes to that because memes are like the number one thing for getting accounts temporarily inactive, and I don't want that to be you all. So that's just like a yes and a no, don't do.
Yeah, yeah. So, two things I want to call out that you just mentioned that are really interesting, and I've heard this, and I didn't know if it was true or not. So, doing the text overlay within Instagram Meta, you'll get pushed more than if you, and TikTok, you'll get pushed more than if you make it an Instagram, download it, and then publish it to TikTok, even without the watermark. You'll still, so you want to be creating, even if it's the exact same thing, make it in both places.
I would, and it's gonna ta and that's one of the other reasons it's like, and that's why a lot of people outsource, is
Hmm.
because time is money, and a lot of people have that capabilities to do that. It's what I recommend. But a lot of people that don't have the time, sometimes that's you just have to keep that one video and then just push it out. That's what you have to do. At the end of the day, yes, that is really what does better.
Wow, that's so funny. So, as a marketer, we talk about all the time, you need to be measuring what you're doing, or else how do you know what's working or what isn't? So, for these STR owners, how are you measuring success? Is it engagement? I mean, typically I always say baseline revenue. So my line would be bookings, but I think that there's some leading indicators we could be looking at in this space. What are you measuring success with?
Let me tell you the one thing that should be a huge red flag to you all whenever you're working with metrics. And the reason I say this is because we can get into the influencer world, which is one of my favorite worlds. But if let's say an influencer takes off the like count, or for instance, you're working with a partnership affiliate and they're taking off a like count, that's the number one red flag. Do not do that. Don't work with
Okay.
somebody that does that. Because I understand that that's there, but sometimes I feel as though that is to help with this new age of it doesn't matter, just post it, and they don't want to see that there's one or none
Hmm.
liking it. Because I think that the like content, the repost is a huge one right now. The more reposts, the sharing, because then the views come into angle. Reason I say views are number one is because those are eyeballs on it, even if they didn't like it. I
Hmm.
notice a lot that I'm like, oh yeah, I liked that. But I kept scrolling. But number one thing is if you've seen something 7 times, you're going to more than likely take action on it the eighth.
Hmm.
And so these more eyes that see it, and perhaps they get to see it that full 7 times, they're like, okay, that's when that questionable, that 3-step phase I talked about earlier kind of goes into the, okay, I'm questioning a little bit. Let me find out more. Oh my gosh, I want to go.
Hmm.
How do we do that? It kind of turns into this progression. So that's what I would say is the views are number one. And do you guys know how to access that? If you don't, you go into Meta. You go into Meta and it pops out all this information. And it's not something where, like, let's say you guys are working with somebody that is like, oh, I can't really find all this information. They can. They can go in there. They can see the views. They can see the post likes. They can see the engagement. I think one of the lack thereof is understanding how to push it afterwards and how to look at it and reflect of, okay, this did well. How can I make the other ones do well? I think that that's kind of biased behavior
Hmm.
because everyday changes, like we were just talking about. So this did really well with that audience that got to view it. The next audience, unless they're followers, is probably not going to be the same people. So
Hmm.
that's just something to keep in mind. But once you start getting to the point again where you're growing your following, you're growing your people, they're sharing all the stuff, that's helping. The share is number two. Views are number one, shares are number two, and I think the reposts are number three.
Yeah, interesting. I know you and I didn't plan to talk about paid much, but if we had to touch on paid for like 1 second, because we are running out of time here at the end, when are you boosting posts? Are you boosting posts? When are you actually putting ads out there? And what does your budget look like? I guess in a nutshell, for a successful STR account, how much are you putting into
I
paid?
I think that if you can put a lot into paid media, but I think that you need to put it more into paid Google ads.
So search ads for STRs, you'd say even with Airbnb and everything.
Yes, and the reason I say that is because I think, especially if you're well, and it comes back to who are you using for the whole process, and it's probably going to
Mhm.
be you. The boosting posts I have never seen to be successful under $800.
Wow.
And that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
I have this one campaign that's going at like 2 grand, and it's not, you don't know if they're generating any more than beyond bookings.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how many times the link per click and all that stuff. That's great. And I know a lot of people differ and they say, no, you need to boost your posts, but you have to have a significant amount of a budget to make that worth it in my world. Now, others probably disagree, but I really think that as STR, hiring out somebody to create content makes more sense for the overall budget because you have to pay so much money to see results.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time when you're seeing that, I don't know about you, but I just scroll right past that.
Yep.
It's annoying to me when I see it, but when I'm authentically scrolling and I'm like, oh, that's what I want to see. You're going
Interesting.
to it instantly. And so let's flip it around. Hold on, wait, I'm actually gonna put this in here because I'm about to lose battery.
Oh, please do.
But
Take your time. One of
lost
those
my light,
days.
lost my battery. I didn't have Wi-Fi earlier, guys. I like ran here from a 2 hour away long distance. Yeah, like I'm here though. I'm here.
She
Um,
made it. She showed up. That's step one.
but there's I feel like if you were as an owner, my top would be Google Ads. I would be really pushing that because when anybody's going and doing stuff for booking out, they're typing in best place in Myrtle Beach to visit, best place in Myrtle Beach to stay, best Airbnb, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah. They're not going to social media as much unless it's TikTok. And TikTok is its own beast because that's where I think that paid media in TikTok does make sense. But that's such a new world that I don't feel like I can go and talk to you about it. That would be somebody. So your next host, I need you to go and ask them because we're all learning in that department. But yeah, I would put your money towards that or going and outsourcing for content creation if you don't feel like that's where I would put your money.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Very cool. We could go into a whole nother discussion. We won't today about creators. That was sort of where we started. So we're 2.5 months in, and we've been kind of playing with the creator role. And I've already found like here's some things that are working, here's some things that aren't. So some good lessons learned season one, but maybe we'll come back next season and talk about creators together.
Yes.
So, what advice would you give someone who's just getting started with social video content in the Airbnb space? Like, what is like the best advice you can give them if they have never done social for their unit before and they're ready to get started?
Grab that tripod and press go
Just do it.
and just do it because content on your, let's say, your page is better than no content at all. If you're not putting it out there, let's say you're with a management company. Management companies are phenomenal with a good budget. Like for instance, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but they have somebody like me that can come in there because they've taken the budget and pushed it out there to be able to help with all of these rentals and properties to be showcased and collaborate with all this stuff. But when you're starting at the beginning, you have no foot traffic, you have nothing. And so it's up to you to press record, get it posted, show the POV, show the authenticity, and why people need to be there. So just post it, even if it's waves rolling in, or if it's your mountain view, or it's the snow coming down in Alaska, and something along that line that's generated towards your destination. Because I'll leave you on this, your property is the destination. Okay, it might be perhaps people want to come to South Carolina or people want to come to Virginia's Eastern Shore, but at the end of the day, they're booking with you and you are the destination. You're the hub at the end of the night, and they're going out and doing activities, but coming home to you. So that's that.
Well, I guess I'm booking my flights to South Carolina as we speak. I have some video to record.
Right, that's right.
No, we're getting Heather in there as soon as we can. You'll see her popping off at Seashore Escape and North Myrtle
That's
Beach
right.
soon.
Got that collaborator request in on there. I
Heck
got it.
yeah.
I got it.
So to close us out, for folks who want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I have it's hw.heatherwilliamson. That's my handle. I kept it very classy. And that's basically it. That's all my public work. But for anybody that wants to go and send me an email, I have hwmarketingconsulting.com, and my email is hw.marketingconsulting@gmail.com.
We're going to get all the links in the bio below as well. Heather, thanks so much for talking shop with me today. This has been extremely enlightening for
Here,
me.
thanks for having me. I've been very excited for it. So.
It's great to have you. Thanks.